Welcome to Your Future in Sales and Marketing, a podcast that helps you make great career decisions to get the most out of your career journey. We'll introduce you to the AXR network of established senior leaders and a hand-picked group of future aspiring leaders who have it all in front of them. You'll learn what it's like in the top job and how to get there. Your hosts from AXR's specialist sales and marketing recruitment team will also land bonus episodes for you on how to work with recruiters, write a resume, and smash an interview, as well as our very popular market updates. It's the podcast that has it all. You can't get this career advice anywhere else. Hey guys, how you doing?
Good.
Thanks so much for coming on. How are you both? Travis, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Really excited and thankful for the opportunity today.
Good. Amy, you going all right?
Yeah, very happy to be here. Good way to start a Friday.
Awesome. Agree completely. To kick us off, question we always lead in with, what's your favourite brand? And you can't pick one that you've worked on. Travis, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I thought long and hard about this question, and my thoughts were, what's something I probably use every day that I'm really not aware of? And I picked Netflix. So I think it's a really good one because what it did was it challenged the way we consume content. So it started off as an actual DVD distributor and then totally changed the way that we view our content online, streaming, through social media. And then the way that they pivot themselves to not just be a distributor of content, but create their own. I thought, what a brand that's able to pivot quite quickly and adapt to a market. So yeah, that was my one.
Love it. And I love the story about Blockbuster foregoing the opportunity to buy them.
Yes, 100%.
Back in the day. Yeah. And Amy?
Mine's a fairly niche one. It's they're a bean company in the UK, so they're called the Bold Bean Company. I follow them on social media for a while, and I think there's a lot of similarities with Mutti in that they've taken a category that's a commodity category and not necessarily considered particularly sexy or cool, and they've just elevated it and really disrupted it. And they've made beans very cool in the UK. They come in these very fancy jars. They're these premium beans. And they have this amazing social media presence. And they've made me completely obsessed with beans. And I'm really sad I can't buy them over here. And I just think to take something like that and do something like that with it is very impressive.
I saw them pop up on LinkedIn, maybe because you'd like something from them. And I was like, I'm not a bean fan, but they look amazing. They're really good.
Yeah.
A bit about life before career. And maybe Amy, we'll keep going with you. Where did you grow up? Tell us a bit about life before career started for you.
So I was born in London, but we moved to Munich when I was 4 years old. So I grew up in Germany. I went through the whole German school system and then went to uni in the UK, which was definitely a bit of a shock to the system. Very different cultures actually between Germany and the UK. So yeah, kind of growing up between the two cultures and then jumped into my career.
Well, amazing. And we'll come on to a bit around that kind of international career that you've had as well. And Travis?
Yeah, I mainly grew up in Victoria. But early on, before the age of 9, we moved around quite a lot for my dad's work. So he was actually in the similar industry in FMCG and liquor. So I think before the age of 9, I'd lived in Melbourne, South Australia, New South Wales, a couple of different primary schools. So I think early on, it kind of teaches you to be really resilient and adaptable. So it was a really normal childhood, brought up, by loving parents and grandparents. I guess aside from that, some of the cool things I got to do because of my dad's work, especially in the 1990s, going to the international cricket at the MCG and eating a steak out of a corporate box as a 10-year-old thinking, this ain't normal. Those days are long gone. But, I think early on, as you touched on, I think just having that variety of different environments that we got to live in and experience sort of helped shape the way I am today. And, yeah, my parents, very early on installed a really hard working ethic. So I think I've worked since about 12. I think my first job was a paper boy. And then I always say that the hardest probably day I've ever worked in my life was at McDonald's in 1999 on the Big Mac McHappy Day on the grill there. So I think that's literally the hardest job I ever had. But again, like normal childhood, just growing up with friends and family and following the St Kilda Football Club.
Nice. No automation in Macca's back in the day. That would have been hard graft.
No, I think it was something like 4,500 Big Macs we did.
Wow.
And it was like a 9-hour day, a few bucks an hour, and definitely taught me the value of money.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Love it. So, Amy, in terms of career, so you've done a bit of work in Europe as well, and now you're building a career in Australia. Take us through some of the key moments and what led you to Mutti.
Yeah, so it's been a bit of a journey in my career. Been across different countries and industries and different kinds of roles. But I think the kind of common thread that's gone through it all is a bit of an openness to throw myself in at the deep end and try new things and take on new challenges. So I actually started out in events across FMCG, automotive, tech, that sort of thing. And that was in Munich. And that gave me my first experience of communicating a brand through experience and those key messages and how you interact with consumers at different touch points. And from there, I moved into agency roles. So I moved over to London. I was working for Havas People there, again, kind of in more the automotive space, but very much in the European market. So that taught me a lot about how local nuance, how you need to work with that and kind of take that into account while also maintaining those kind of brand comms at a bigger level. Coming to Australia then, I think, was a bit of a turning point. I stepped into slightly more senior roles, very client-facing, and then entered into the more shopper marketing space, which is kind of where I then found my groove. And then I knew that I wanted to move out of agency and into brand side, and I'm a massive foodie. So when the Mutti opportunity came up, it felt like a really natural fit. It's such a beautiful brand, and it has this amazing heritage, 120 plus years old, and there's a massive opportunity to grow here. And I think for me, it's a small and powerful team. And so it's been a really great environment to kind of grow and learn a lot. And we have some amazing senior leadership who I've been able to learn a lot from. So yeah, it's been a good journey.
And that background you've had in agency, has that benefited you in your role now on sort of supplier side? How's it shaped your view of shopper marketing?
Yeah, I think it's always helpful to kind of have both sides. In shopper marketing, you generally will work with agencies. So having been in their shoes, I think definitely benefits me in terms of being able to understand where they're coming from, their ways of working. I also think having worked in agency, you are working across a lot of different clients, different stakeholders, and very tight timelines. So it does teach you how to deliver great work under pressure, builds that resilience as well. But I think then coming to moving brand side, you get the kind of end-to-end view, you get that commercial view on top of the more executional piece that you do in agency. You're not just executing, you're kind of aligning your activity with the brand priorities, with the commercial priorities. And so I think, having had that grounding in agency has given me a lot of skills, and then being able to tie it into the more strategic view of things brand side has been great. Yeah,
and you get the satisfaction of seeing something through from start to finish.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's great. And Travis, you've been at Kellanova for over a decade now, and you've risen through the ranks.
Yes.
Take us through the big milestones or moments of growth for you.
Yeah, I think probably one of the earliest ones, and showing my age here, was going back about 12 years. I moved from a sales planner role on our independence team to a key account manager. And that was a big step because for the first time ever in my career, I had responsibility for a P&L. Even though it was, just one state and a few retailers, it gave me great understanding how to translate our strategy into the customer, which is really important, how to build complex relationships, both, internally and externally. The thing about the independents too, it's such a unique channel that you really do get to understand how retail works, the real nuts and bolts of it, because you're dealing with big retailers, but also small ones and multiple MSOs. And that taught me a lot about how to build relationship with customers. Probably another major milestone was about 4 years ago. Our sales director, Ben O'Brien, had been on the independence account for a few years, and the Coles account team were going through a bit of a transition. And he said, can you help us out for about 4 weeks? And said, no worries, happy to help out and work with the team. And then here I am 4 years later, now leading for our partnership with Coles. So I think for me, that was a big step. And it's one of those opportunities where you go, always say yes. Always say yes to the opportunities, because they can definitely evolve into something bigger and better down the track.
Yeah, good spot, Ben O'Brien, masterstroke.
That's it.
and you touched on there, you started your career in sort of that kind of VRP and planning space, which I think is a fantastic kind of grounding for account managers. How has it specifically helped you in your role now?
Yeah, definitely. I think you get a great understanding of how it all works. So a customer walks in, buys a product off the shelf. How did that product get there? So for me, it was still very early days when I first did the VRP role. I think I was the first one ever for Kellogg's to step into the Coles building, and I'd come from the field. So I've gone from being by myself out on the road to working in one of Australia's largest corporate offices. Just that, being responsible for moving millions and millions of units of stock. So you had to be really well planned. You had to be resilient. And I think that taught a lot about values, about honesty, transparency, planning is another thing, and building complex relationships. So I don't think I'd be sitting in this chair today talking with you as an MBM without that role.
Awesome.
Sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Great sell for starting in a VRP role.
Absolutely.
Now you guys do different jobs in very different businesses. So I'm really keen to explore those sort of key differences and challenges and opportunities. So Amy, what does a shopper marketing manager role look like in a business like Mutti? What are some of the benefits and challenges of working for that kind of small, fast-growing organization?
So the role itself is really broad, partly because it's such a lean team. I get to wear a lot of hats, which coming from agency side where you do the same has been really lovely, getting to kind of do very different things day in, day out. I get to lead shopper campaigns for the major supermarkets. I get to manage our digital and social campaigns. I support sales with the in-store execution and occasionally even get to deliver kind of those key brand moments like trade shows, which given my background in events is kind of a nice thread there. In the lean team that we are, I get to sit at that intersection of sales and marketing. So it means aligning creative ideas with the commercial priorities, which is a really nice thing to be able to do. I also get to work across all retailers and product groups, which is less usual if you're in a bigger business. So I get to kind of see that end-to-end journey and gives me that end-to-end visibility. And that means that I have the ability to kind of trial something in one channel and then maybe improve it, adapt it for another. So it lets me be quite strategic and creative. The role itself, I think, demands kind of creativity and commercial acumen, which is a really interesting thing to balance and keeps my job very interesting. And I think, as I touched on before, I'm really lucky in that I get to work with a senior leadership team who bring really exceptional experience. And so I get to kind of learn from them day to day, which is really valuable. In terms of the benefits and challenges of working in that sort of business, I'd say the biggest benefit is probably impact and ownership. So it's a lean, very fast growing team, and you're not just executing part of a plan, you're kind of the one who gets to shape it, which from my background in more agency where you are more executional, it's really nice to move into that more strategic role. And then you really get to see the influence you're having and how that shapes growth, which is really rewarding. The challenge is that resources are finite, budgets aren't endless, but I think that pushes us to be sharper and more strategic with our spend. So every dollar, every touch point that I'm activating across really has to deliver. And I think that although is considered constraint, it also forces creativity and discipline. And I think that kind of mindset that's created actually led to one of my proudest moments since joining Mutti, which is we won Cartology's Campaign of the Year award last year. Right. So that was for the best omnichannel campaign under 250K, and then went on to win the overall Campaign of the Year award, which was an amazing moment. And I think that was because we made a relatively small budget, work really hard, and created an activation that resonated with customers and retailers. Yeah.
Great. Because I was going to say this kind of like humble tomato brand
yes,
with a small team, finite resource, but absolutely shooting the lights out and getting all this amazing recognition. How does a brand like Mutti really punch above its weight in the market?
So it's a good question. I think it starts with a really clear identity. So Mutti is all about tomatoes, has always been about tomatoes, and will always be about tomatoes. And I think that clarity builds trust with the customer. So we are expanding into different categories. We're now in condiments, for example, but very much still in the tomato space, and that's where we'll stay. And I think, that clarity resonates with the customer. There's also the fact that we work really closely with our retail partners. So our activity adds value to the category as well. And I think, so the category and not just our brand. And I think that collaboration is what makes our campaigns more targeted and more effective. And getting to work really closely with the customers that we work with, I think that enables us to deliver really exciting campaigns and really impactful brand comms, and also kind of those shopper touch points as well.
Yeah.
And then because we're this passionate, kind of close-knit team, we get to be really bold in what we do. We get to do activity that you might not associate with a tomato brand. If you look at our TVCs, they are very different from a lot of the category. There's none of the kind of more cliched elements. It's very stylish and very disruptive and very different. And I think a lot of our brand comms we try to match that, and we just try, similar to the brand I mentioned at the start, we just try and do things a little bit differently. Yeah. And we may not be the biggest, but I do think we punch above our weight by really staying focused and showing up and working really closely with all of our partners.
Yeah, I love the ad that was around a few months ago with I think it was a girl on the Vespa chasing down Uber Eats delivery drivers and offering the bottle of Mutti ketchup along with the
this will improve your takeaway.
Yeah, I love it. It was great. It was so cool. And Travis, so from small, fast-growing business to multinational, huge global business and a national business manager role within that, what does that role look like in that environment? And I guess, again, what are some of the benefits or maybe challenges of working in that?
Yeah, definitely. Well, at a tier one FMCG environment like what Kellanova is, it's extremely fast paced, strategic and really collaborative. In my case, working with a major partner like Coles, I'm responsible for the joint business plan, the promotional strategy, the execution of new initiatives, and ultimately the delivery of a real sustainable and profitable business for both while offering value to the consumer. One of the biggest benefits, I think, working in a tier one environment is the scale. Like the brands we get to work with, like, staples like Nutri-Grain, everybody says cornflakes, but, Sultana brand, Pop-Tarts, Pringles as well. So not many people know, we're associated with that. So that's a major brand for us. So that's really exciting. And with that, you get to work across many cross-functional teams. So whether it's from RGM, insights, logistics, planning, I think our category team is one of the best category teams in the market as well. And it's great because you actually get to shape how an entire category can perform and the way that the market moves and the way that, your brands get engagement at a customer level too, which is really exciting. But there is a lot of challenges. When things go wrong at that level, they go wrong spectacularly, whether it's through issues at the plant or forecasting complexities. You have to be across every bit of detail at this level. So week to week, it's about promotional performance, forecast accuracy. Have we got the right pricing architecture? There's a range of you coming up. What's the long-term category strategy? So you have to be able to pivot really quickly from one day to the next, but also look long-term.
And for anyone listening who's either managing a major customer or aspires to do so, what are your tips? How do you build trust with that customer and how do you deliver?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I learned early on, especially coming onto the Coles account, there's never a really big win at the start. And when you're building trust, you've just got to have consistency and consistency in your message, the way that you show up. And it's about delivering on what you say you can and being transparent when you can't is a really key thing. You also have to really get so granular and understand what that business is and what their KPIs are. What are their touch points? What are their sore points that you need to really work with? I think is really critical. And for me, once you start to understanding that you're not just there to sell products, you're there to help them solve problems too. So I think that's really critical. You need to be also adaptable when the pressure's on, because trust gets built, I believe, when things don't always go to plan, but you have the ability to fix it. So for me, it's just been the day-to-day operations on it. I always tell my team, if they're coming to you and it's something small, get it off your desk straight away. Don't wait on things. Be very proactive all the time. And then that way, when the Coles commercial team ring us, they know they can trust us and we're able to pivot quite quickly. So it's the boring stuff. It's the day-to-day, getting your promotional programs right, your forecasts, just making sure the forms you're filling are correct as well. So it's everything, because when you're dealing with a big company like Coles, they deal with so many suppliers that they don't have time to waste. And, it's the small stuff that makes a big difference in the end.
You've got to be easy to do business with.
100%. That's exactly right.
Yeah, great. Love
definitely.
it. Now let's talk a bit about MindPick, which you guys are both participants in, and we're very proud to be the talent partner for. Amy, starting with you, how did you first get involved with MindPick? And I guess what were your expectations, if any, coming into the program?
So Trish, our MD, is friends with Paul Bull, who founded MindPick. So I think she first heard about it from him and nominated a few of us in the team to take part. I jumped at it. It's my first experience doing kind of peer-based mentoring, and I just thought it would be a really valuable experience. In terms of what I expected from it, I don't know that I had any specific expectations. Like I said, it was my first time doing anything like that. I'd done the more traditional kind of mentor-mentee relationship. I think I was excited by the opportunity to have a group of peers and bounce ideas off them. Yeah, so I think it was kind of more anticipation of what it could be rather than any specific expectations.
Yeah, fair enough. And Travis?
Yeah, pretty similar. I think it's always good going into an environment that you're not sure and unaware of. And, Ben and Kate had been on the courses before and obviously part of the mentor and mentee relationship, but I've never actually done one at the peer level before, which was a bit different. So I had no expectations coming in, but it was really beneficial from day one. You get to hear how everybody's kind of going through the same challenges at your level as well. It really showed what impact you can have by, some of the case studies we've done and ideas. So getting involved with it late last year has been a real sort of game changer as well in terms of the way I lead my team too.
And has anything surprised you guys about the experience so far?
Probably we're all in the same boat, really. It feels like the issues we're having across multiple companies and challenges, but it kind of gives you the confidence that you're heading in the right direction as well. So that was really, a good surprise.
Good.
I think for me, it's not necessarily surprised, but impressed by the breadth of knowledge in the group. So I'm always humbled by my peers, my colleagues. Every session, I think there's an opportunity to learn something and absorb their expertise. I think it's also really shown me that there isn't necessarily always a right answer. So every session, one person brings a business case and we have a coach and a mentor there, and then we all provide inputs and suggestions. And I think I've just realized that we don't necessarily all agree and there isn't necessarily a right or wrong answer. There are many different ways to approach a challenge. But I think that's quite comforting in a way, that there are multiple ways to solve a problem. And the key is, I'd say to staying curious and learning from everyone and everything that you do.
Yeah. And which part of the program has had the biggest impact on your thinking?
Interestingly for me, I think it's the exposure to different career paths and personality types. I think it's quite easy to think of a career as linear and there to be one type of success. But I think being surrounded by different people who've had very different journeys, it's broadened my perspective on where I could go next and where I might want to go next. And yeah, inspired me to think differently about that path.
Great. Travis?
Yeah, I think one of the things for me in my role and similar roles is that you're always in solution mode. And what it taught me, and very early on, I got pulled up a lot about this, was I was going straight for the solution instead of just asking, the probing questions. And that led to me reflecting back and going like, how could I probably show more empathy and curiosity? And it's not just jumping to the solution straight away. So I think that for me, my team settings and also unlocking the conversation to delve further has been really beneficial in my role, because one of the things that you move from it being more transactional dialogue that we've noticed, in the training sessions, was that it became a lot more strategic. We started to really trust each other because we started to ask a lot more probing questions that would actually come from that. And it's like in my role, it's about like really balancing your commercial delivery, but also relationship building at the same time. That's probably the biggest unlock I've found, is like delivering on the commercial side, but also building the relationship and how I can improve that.
And you mentioned there that the peer-to-peer aspect was something quite different from what you'd done before.
Yeah.
How have you found the learning format or that peer group interaction to compare to what you've done previously?
It's been really good. I think what it does is sometimes when you're dealing with people that are a higher level than you, it can be a bit intimidating. And I think when you've got that peer-to-peer, you instantly feel more comfortable. And it's an environment where you can say what you think. And you often find that, what Amy just said before, not everybody agrees. And then you start challenging each other, which is also good too. So I've actually found it to be at times quite robust as well, which is really important because that's the real world.
Yeah.
Not everybody's going to, agree with everything you say or let's go down this path, but you can look at one problem, people have got 10 solutions. So I think that's been the real key for me, is that having that comfortability at that level with everybody else, which has been good.
Yeah, great. Anything you'd add to that, Amy, from your perspective?
I'd just say that it's more interactive. So obviously in the traditional kind of mentoring setup, you're in that learner role, whereas I think in the peer-based approach, you're much more actively contributing. So you're providing, I guess, recommendations and testing your own strategic responses and constructively challenging other viewpoints. And I think that participation really actively forces you to articulate ideas with kind of clarity and conviction. And I think it's something where traditionally you might be more inclined to defer to the more senior team members, for example, on points, whereas stepping up into that almost mentor role in those conversations, I think forces you to think at that more senior level, and that you can then take further into those conversations that you're having in real work life.
Yeah, and it's really powerful. You can actually learn more by kind of teaching others and sharing your knowledge, which is really, really cool. Has there been one specific change that you've made in the way you approach your role or in your mindset since joining MindPick?
I think it's definitely made me much more intentional when I think about my career journey and not necessarily where I want to go next, but the skills that I want to accumulate before or while doing so. Really thinking about that broader skill set. So rather than being focused on growing within my own function, which obviously I'm also doing, but MindPick really makes me think, kind of take that step back and think about the skills that I might want for the longer term. So things that are outside that immediate role, things like category and more sales-based experience, they're not currently actively a part of my role at the moment, but as you grow and as you continue to step into those more senior roles, and understanding of all of those different skill sets is really essential to keep growing and keep delivering value at every level.
Awesome. And Travis, you mentioned something quite interesting in that the MindPick program has helped you lead differently. Can you expand on that for us?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we all get caught up in the fast-paced environment like FMCG is that we just get so stuck in the day-to-day. And I think you've touched on it before. It's almost like a pause button MindPick, where you just sit back and you go, you reflect, you challenge your own thinking, and you got to have empathy about like, what are they thinking? And you lead that by, probing questions I spoke about before. Being curious as well can lead to really good outcomes. And that's really helped with the way that I communicate and lead with the team now. So it's almost like when, you're presenting and thinking about it, it's like, here's the reasons why. And then, getting that feedback and then articulating that to the team so they can go implement that strategy. But being comfortable with the challenge back is another thing. And I think that's really important. It's just sometimes it just moves so quickly. You just got to stop and just reflect back and then think about a different solution. That's what MindPick's done for me.
A forced pause.
It is, absolutely.
So if someone in your network was to ask you, hey, MindPick, is it worth it? What would you say?
Definitely. I would say it's a really great opportunity to stretch your thinking, meet people in similar roles to you, slightly different roles to you, and kind of just keep expanding that network all in one nice little package.
Great. Travis?
I completely agree. I think, definitely from that peer-to-peer focus, there's a lot of skill sets you can build from it. Jump in, take the opportunity. If anything, build your network up. So that's really important in this environment. So you never know who you're going to run into and always be aware of your environment, obviously. But loved it. Definitely would recommend it for anybody.
Awesome. We'll finish with a bit of a rapid fire. First question. One skill every FMCG professional needs to develop in 2025. Amy?
For me, I think it's familiarity with AI. It's something that's here and it's here to stay. And I think rather than avoiding it, it's all about learning how you can use it to work smarter and focus on the more creative elements of your job. You can get it to do all the boring admin, heavy stuff, and just embracing that.
Awesome.
AI definitely is really important. We've started to embrace that at Kellanova and particularly my team. For me, and this is a big step change coming back a few years, but embrace data as your friend. I think in 2025 and moving forward that you have to interpret and act on data, and it's non-negotiable now for any FMCG professional. It's not just about reading the numbers. It's about how do you uncover the story that the data is telling you, using those insights and to help shape your strategy, spark innovation. Like we've looked at some data that's actually taken us now down a totally different path, which is going to be really exciting. It can solve a lot of problems too, which is really critical. And as Amy touched on, learn as many systems as you can. It's just going to make you so much more agile and effective. And it'll actually, really help you probably better understand your customer strategy too. So there's a couple there.
Awesome. What's your favourite MindPick moment so far?
I think there's been a couple, but the sessions I enjoy the most are the quarterly ones. We every quarter have a face-to-face meetup. We're based not just in Sydney, so different. It can't happen too frequently, but we get together. There's something about being in the room all together that gives the whole experience a different energy. And we also have guest speakers come and present on a topic that we kind of vote on and are interested in. And those are really valuable because you're learning separately again in a whole kind of new format, but also you're getting to be with the peers that you've been talking to virtually for the last couple of months. Yeah, I think those probably.
Awesome. It's pretty similar. Love the catch-ups and the challenges that everybody brings, but it was probably the last session where we had one of the mentors come in, Dean Carroll, who provided us with an opportunity, when we say opportunity, to be a CEO for a day. And he provided us with a case study about wine and international tariffs that were coming in, and you had to present your option back to the board. It's fair to say that was a really robust conversation between all of us, and I'm sure a lot of Googling about wine, which I have no idea about. And it really gave you the insight as the pressure that, potential MDs and CEOs face and the decisions they make and how it can actually affect the whole market. So that was probably my favourite, and we got to see everybody under a bit of pressure and how they react. That was quite good.
Yeah, plenty of people want to say, where do you want to take your career? They're like, I want to be a managing director. I'm like,
I'm pretty sure after that I was like, I'm pretty comfortable.
And finally, what's one piece of career advice that you would give your younger self?
definitely that you don't need to have it all figured out. I think there are some people at the end of school who are really clear on what they want to do, and that's great. But I think there's real value in trying different industries, different locations, different roles, and figuring out what it is that you're good at and what it is you like to do. And also those different skill sets and experiences that you build up will only add value as you continue through your career.
Awesome. Great advice.
Yeah, pretty similar. I think take your time. It doesn't all happen at once. And you get out of school, you think you're going to take on the world. That doesn't happen. I think that's really important, just to, just take the pause button, which I'm still learning at 41. And the other thing is to build your network early on and build a vast network. It doesn't have to just be in sales, whether it's people in logistics, planning, IBP, functions across many businesses, because down the track, that does come in handy. I can attest to that. So yeah, definitely build your network.
Totally. And I think within FMCG, we can get really insular. You just end up spending time with people in your own business and you're so head down in the day-to-day.
100%.
And it's one of the great things about MindPick is that forced moment to actually 100%. Connect with people outside.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Awesome. Great. Thank you both for coming on. There's so much gold in there for our listeners, I think. So really, really appreciate your time today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed today's podcast from AXR Recruitment and Search. We're passionate about helping you get the most out of your sales and marketing career. Keep listening as we bring you more career insights and advice from Australia's inspiring sales and marketing leaders. See you next time on Your Future in Sales and Marketing.